This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors. Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of Greater Chattanooga region. Again, my name is Scott Howell, and I'm your host for today. You know, a lot of people want to know, what is this Good Neighbor Podcast thing all about? Well, we're all about trying to bring an awareness to the residents living in our communities about the businesses that are either locally owned and operated, or maybe they're corporate offices somewhere else, but they are locally operated by people who live and work in this area. And, you know, we're all about trying to promote that local presence, because that's what it's all about. You know, we've got a lot of people have forgotten that our local communities were built on the backs of small businesses. You know, small businesses, some of them became larger later, but small businesses are who still need our support today, and we don't need to forget about them. And, you know, every local business, I like to say, you know, has a story to tell. And here on the Good Neighbor Podcast, we just want to help them shout it loud and proud, so everybody in this whole area will know they're there and know what's available to them, what they offer. And today we have one of our good neighbors with us, Elizabeth Burgess with Our House Studios. And we are so glad to have you today, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Elizabeth, I reached out to Elizabeth because I get on Instagram and, you know, trying to do some posting and stuff. And we've had few technical difficulties. Hadn't been able to use it like we'd like to, but I get on there and there's Elizabeth everywhere I turn. There's Elizabeth. And we were trying to reach out to some people that were involved in the fitness industry and trying to because it's summertime, right? We all want to look good when we go out with our shirt off, or we go down to the beach or the river or whatever. We want to look good, right? So I thought it was a good time to reach out to some folks, and I kept seeing Elizabeth on here and what she is doing to help people and what she does for herself. And so I just wanted to have you on. And Elizabeth, before we dive into talking about what you do at Our House Studios, would you like to share a little bit with us about yourself and your family?
Sure. I'm actually a Ringgold native, originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I moved away for college. I'm a biologist by trade, and moved back about 10 years ago with me and my 4 boys.
Okay.
Yeah, so I came back here. I was at the aquarium for a while. I actually still do penguins at the aquarium, but I work from home and I train 5 days a week.
Yeah, I've seen some of your videos and stuff where you posted about the penguins and all, and the penguins and stuff. That was fascinating.
That was actually that was their first time back on exhibit after being off of it for about 2 weeks, which never happened since we had that. Yeah, that exhibit opened in 2015, and that they were off for construction purposes. But that was their first day back, and they just ran and went nuts.
Well, what during that period of time, were you still able to interact with them, or were they just kind of in confinement? Or
well, we have 2 backup rooms, isolation and holding. So we split them based on their species. We have 2 species, and one was in one room and one was in the other. And they're used to being in confined spaces. So for them, it's good. Like for us, it would be claustrophobic, but they love it. They love the confined spaces.
Okay.
But it was pretty gross. Yeah.
I lived up in Sevierville for a couple of years, and I used to go to the Ripley's Aquarium up there a lot.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the aquarium. I haven't been to the one in Chattanooga in a while. I need to get back over there.
Well, we got 2 buildings, and we have a brand new baby penguin chick too.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Wow.
5 weeks old.
Yeah, got to go over and see that. Well, you know, let's talk about Our House Studios. I understand it's a fitness center, but what does Our House Studios do? And then talk to me about what you do there.
So Our House is a privately owned gym, and it's kind of like one-stop shopping for all fitness levels. So we have our weight room. We have our front room, which has like CrossFit style classes, HIIT classes. We have boxing, we have pedaling, and we also have other trainers and their programs that run out of there, like Rock Steady Boxing, which is strictly for Parkinson's patients and anybody with like neurodegenerative diseases, so like Lewy body syndrome. and they're there 3 days a week as well.
Okay.
So I personally, I work with particularly women. I do bodybuilding and weight training. I do everybody's macros. If you want to learn more about nutrition, want to tailor your diet to like a cutting phase, if you want to lose weight or if you want to build muscle, then I do that for you. And I also work with Roxay Boxing, working with our Parkinson's patients.
You know, I want to talk a little bit about that Parkinson's situation. You mind, we had somebody really close in our family that passed from Parkinson's, and how does that benefit them? You know, we all know Parkinson's by the shaking. You know, when they have the
tremors.
So how does that boxing benefit them?
So they've done a lot of studies with Parkinson's patients looking at how fitness affects them. And what it does is it slows down the progression of the disease. There isn't a cure. It is progressive. It's going to get worse. But what we do with Roxay Boxing, and Kristen Shalacy, who started the affiliate that we have in our gym, it's 3 days a week and it's an hour and a half. So it's half HIIT, which is, constantly moving, doing different exercises, and then it's half boxing. And what we do is we work on their gross motor skills and also their fine motor skills and also their memory, because that's another thing that people don't think about with Parkinson's is a lot of them are suffering from dementia that's caused by the progression of the disease. So we may have them, going over hurdles or doing a jump rope, but we also will have them do a sequence of exercises, like tell them what the exercises are, and they have to remember what those exercises are. Like we don't tell them, we don't give them a piece of paper. They have to try and remember it. So it's really training your brain and your body, because the more you move, the better your progression is. If you just sit there and you do nothing, they know that your Parkinson's is going to progress faster. So we're really trying to delay the symptoms. And sometimes, it can be difficult, but we have patients that will come there. They have people who drive them there, and they are there 3 days a week for an hour and a half every single class. So I say, if a Parkinson's patient can work out that much, everybody else can.
Well, yeah, that's really inspirational because, I'm somebody who witnessed that slow, progression of the disease and degradation of the physical activity of the body. I guess when I think about that, he didn't get a lot of physical exercise. Once it happened, he did just kind of sit down and lay down under it. So, if that would have benefited him and kept him a little bit more cognitive, I guess is the right word, that would have been great.
And that was one of the things that we saw with COVID is, they shut down all the gyms. Yeah. And so the Parkinson's patients, they regressed because they didn't have that physical outlet. And so once they came back, they got back into it, but their symptoms really progressed a lot more than it would have if they had kept the gyms open and they kept coming. Yeah. And it's also a social aspect. Like the patient comes, they work out, but also their caregiver gets a break and they can interact with other caregivers. So you have that social aspect of it, which is really, really important, because along with, the tremors and the dementia, you're also dealing with caretaker fatigue and depression. And we know exercising, releasing that dopamine, it helps with all those things.
So is this is a group class, I take it then?
Yes, it is. Okay. It's an affiliate. It's Roxay Boxing Chattanooga, and it runs out of the room. And they do pedaling for Parkinson's as well. Kimberly Bryson Jones does that. And sometimes some of the Parkinson's patients will show up just to play ping pong, because we have ping pong tables, and they will come an hour before Roxay class just to play ping pong, because it's exercise, but it's also that social interaction.
Well, Elizabeth, you said you're a biologist by trade, right? By trade. So tell us about your journey into the fitness world.
So I grew up as a dancer. That was my background. I danced all the way through my senior year at West Georgia. So I've always been into fitness, and I've always exercised just because I had to be. And I went through the typical COVID divorce after almost 19 years. And so I was in the gym all the time. And I was like, I'm going to be here anyway. I may as well get my personal training certification, which I did through ISSA, which is actually very science heavy. So I had the background for it and I could understand it very quickly and pick it up quickly. And I also approach my training in a very scientific way. So like with your macros, I will calculate it based on grams of protein, carbs, fats, based on, your medications that you're taking, your age, your height, your weight, but also with the exercises. So I actually, this is very nerdy. I watch YouTube videos from sports science experts, and they talk about the studies that they've done on certain exercises and which ones have the greatest potential for muscle growth based on like actually hooking you up to electrodes for each muscle and seeing how the muscle reacts to the various exercises. So I get very nerdy and in depth about it. Like, you could be doing this exercise, but here's a better one. So that's how I tailor my workouts for myself and also for my clients.
Well, that's pretty good to know, because if you were my trainer, I would be hoping that you had the knowledge to tell me, which exercise that I needed to be doing. Because, not only just which exercise, but, if I could do this exercise and maybe it was, wouldn't have to do as much of it or less exertion than the other one to get better benefits, why not?
And that's actually my biggest pet peeve, because with social media today, you have Instagram, TikTok, and you see all these reels where people they're doing kind of gimmicky things, like gimmicky movements and exercises and doing stupid stuff and awkward positions. And it's like, you don't need to do any of that. The basics work. And it's the same thing with nutrition. The basics work. It's calories in versus calories out. There's nothing like the body type diet or, the blood type diet. That's just all BS and crap. Yeah. So that's kind of one of my things. It's like, the basics work for a reason. It's backed by science. And that's what I like to push. I have clients come to me, it's like, well, I saw this. I'm like, I don't care what you saw. That's just clickbait. Ignore it.
Watch that like a cartoon, huh? That don't really work.
It looks good on video. Right. And yes, that person is fit, but that person is fit because they're doing these other things, not because they're doing that stupid video that they put up on TikTok for views.
Right. Yeah, just because the Wile E. and Coyote, the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner done it, don't mean it's going to be good for you to do, right?
Exactly. And I think that confuses a lot of people, and that's why people are very intimidated by fitness, because it can be overwhelming. At our house, like, we kind of we dumb it down for you. We tell you what you need to do and how you need to do it. And so it takes the guesswork out of it. And because it's easier to do and you don't have to think about it, you're more liable to stick with it, as opposed to just kind of, giving up after a few months.
Well, seeing results faster too is encouraging. When you start seeing results right away, nobody's going to go to the gym once and come out with swelling muscles. But once you can start seeing small little things happening, it's encouraging.
It is. And I do encourage my clients to take pictures every 4 weeks. Whether you think it's helping or not, go ahead and take those pictures, because you see yourself every day. Yeah. And your coworkers see you every day. The people at the gym see you every day. So if you take those photos, you really start to see the difference, and it motivates you to keep going. And it can be pretty impressive. Like, I take photos every 4 weeks just to see, how I'm progressing. If I need to tweak something, back off something, it's good for everybody. And I think it's becoming more acceptable too to take those photos, because I also tell my clients, like, post them online, because you get encouragement from other people, and it helps you keep going too.
Absolutely. A lot of people are putting pictures online. They're actually doing it, working out in the gym and putting stuff online. And of course, you hear some criticizers and things like that. But I think it's good, because it watching those videos actually motivates me. I see other people getting results, and I'm like, wow. If they can do it, why can't I? So do you encourage measurements?
Do what?
You encourage taking measurements?
So I personally will take measurements for my clients. And again, I do it. It depends on what they're wanting. Like, if they're wanting to gain muscle, it's a lot more difficult. So we'll do measurements like every 6 to 8 weeks. But if they want to lose and they're in a cutting phase, then I do it every 4 weeks. Because, and this is also, people have to get out of their mentality of weighing themselves. That's like my biggest struggle with clients is they keep weighing themselves.
Yeah.
Because you may think that you're not changing at all, but the measurements tell a different story. Your waist may be getting smaller. Your chest may be getting bigger, especially if you're a man, it's because you're putting on muscle.
Yeah.
So quit weighing yourself. Do the measurements, and even like half an inch to an inch, it makes a big difference. Also, your clothes. Like I have a client right now. He showed me a picture where he's a police officer and his weight belt has gone down like 4 or 5 notches.
Yeah.
Just a couple of months. And again, he sees himself every day, so he's not seeing, such a drastic change, but his clothes are hanging off of him. Other people are noticing. And a picture popped up from like a year ago on Facebook, and then he compared it to the date. It's night and day.
Yeah.
So take photos, do measurements, post it. Like it's becoming more acceptable to do these things too.
Yeah. I have just a regular clothing belt that I'm fixing to have to replace because I'm on the last notch, and it's actually a little bit too loose. So yeah, it's very encouraging, when that happens. Super encouraging.
Yeah, the belt notches are the biggest thing for some people.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I shared with you some of my weight loss, and I totally understand what you talk about the scale. I tell people I really don't care what the scale says. I just know what I want my body to look like. If I get my body to the point where I want it to look and it says I weigh 250, I don't really care, right? But if I just want to look like I want to look, I want to
have more energy,
belly fat.
Yeah, like you feel better. You got more energy.
Right.
It's amazing what it can do. And once you start to see those changes and you feel better, it's a snowball effect. It keeps you going.
Talk to people a little bit about you use some words that some people might not understand if they haven't really followed the fitness industry. Talk to people about the bulking and the cutting.
So when I calculate people's diets based on their macros, which are your macronutrients. It's your proteins, your carbs, and your fats, which make up your total calories for the day.
Now that's a macro.
Yes, your protein is a macro. These are essentially like the basic categories of how you categorize your nutrition.
Okay.
So I calculate them based on what your goals are. If you want to lose weight, I would put you in a cutting phase. If you're happy with your weight overall, but you just want to build more muscle, maintenance calories. So we're not increasing them, we're not decreasing them, keeping them the same. I would just kind of like kick up your protein a bit and alter your workout a little bit. Now, if you're wanting to build muscle, we're going to bulk you, put you in a bulking phase, which means we're going to jack up your calories, all of them, fats, carbs, proteins. Typically, that's going to be what the men want, because all men want, big arms, big shoulders. So that's typically what they go for. Women typically go for the weight loss, which is the cutting.
Yeah.
Again, it's based on your age, your weight, current weight. And if you've had kids, because I work mostly with postpartum women. We're in our 40s now. We're perimenopausal. Some are postmenopausal. It affects your hormones and it's going to affect your weight.
So when you're talking about a woman wanting to lose weight, how, and of course this would be the same for men or women, but I think about a lot of women seem like maybe, of course, anymore there's more women in the gym than there are men, but there's some women still kind of feel intimidated about it. So when it comes to weight loss, how does the lean muscle, having more lean muscle, affect their weight loss or not?
So the more muscle you put on, the more energy you're going to burn, because muscle burns more calories just generally throughout the day. They've done studies where they look at the calorie expenditure after you've done weight training versus after you've done cardio. You're going to burn a lot of carbs when you're doing cardio. Afterwards, your body's going to switch to burning fat. With bodybuilding, you're going to be burning a little bit of fat, and afterwards your body's going to be burning carbs. So overall, it's going to be the same thing.
Okay.
Like calories in versus calories out. The difference is when you weight train, that burning phase of like burning calories lasts longer than if you do cardio.
Okay.
So that's why I really push weight training for women, especially if you're older, because you can maintain your weight better if you have more muscle.
And
But the caveat is it's more difficult to build muscle the older you get.
well,
So you gotta watch your diet.
a lot of I hear people say, women say sometimes, I don't want to bulk up, I don't want to look big, and
Yeah.
I think sometimes they don't realize that's harder than they really think it is. But if they can build that lean muscle, it may not pop up in their biceps, and it may not pop up in their shoulders necessarily. Depends on their
No.
training, but if they can have that more of that lean muscle, not only will it help them to lose weight, but isn't it better going into older age to have that muscle to support themselves so they won't have as many falls, and maybe they'll be able to take care of themselves longer?
Yeah, the more lean muscle mass that you have, especially as a female, it just helps you overall. It helps with your energy. As you get older, you may want to work more on mobility, things like that. I will say, women always say, I don't want to get bulky. It is not possible for a female to get bulky. Our bodies simply don't produce enough testosterone in order to do it. We have way too much estrogen, which is kind of going to knock down whatever natural testosterone your body could produce. So it puts a limit on how much muscle you could build.
Okay.
And again, like even if you are eating nothing but protein and lifting weights like you should, a woman is only going to get so much muscle mass.
Okay.
Our bodies are just not programmed that way. Our bodies are programmed to hold on to a lot of fat. So for us, it would be hard to get down to like 15% body fat, whereas a man, easy to do because he's got the testosterone to do it. So I'd say for women, you're not going to get bulky. It's just not going to happen. Unless you take something, it's not going to happen.
Unless you take something that does for that purpose of trying to bulk up. Okay. Yeah.
Which some women do. To each their own.
And to each their own, right? Yeah, like you said. But yeah, I think there's some women are afraid of. They think that I just need the treadmill because I don't want to bulk up, but they don't realize how beneficial it is to their overall health, and especially their long-term health. To build that muscle.
I see women doing cardio all the time, and their bodies don't change because they're just doing cardio.
Yeah.
When you're doing cardio, your body's building carbs. It's not burning fat. It's just not. So if you want to get that fat loss, you need to start lifting weights. And especially the older you get. I mean, I see women running all the time. Their bodies aren't changing. I see them doing HIIT classes for years on end. Their body's not changing. You've got to lift weights. And it is intimidating for some women. Our gym, we do have quite a few women in the weight room. But again, it's mostly men. It's mostly power lifters. But once you get in there and you get comfortable with the machines and the dumbbells, again, it makes it easier. But it's just kind of like taking those first steps to get into the weight room and start lifting weights. So I would say, like, if that's what you want, if you want to lose fat, stop doing so much cardio. Pick up a dumbbell. And we are here to help you. And that's the one thing about our house studios is we really do hold you accountable if that's what you want, because we can tell you what exercises to do and tell you what to eat. A lot of gyms don't do that. Or if they do, they charge you like $150 a month. We're not going to do that. I actually do it for free for a lot of people. If you ask me for it, I'll do it for you. It takes me 10 minutes to do the math.
That's great to know because, some people just can't afford the extra to have all that done. So they just wind up not doing it.
I know some pros here in Chattanooga that charge like $150 a month just to calculate your macros.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Don't pay $150 for your macros. Come to our house. I'll do it for free.
And you were talking about lifting weights. One more thing I want to add or want to interject. They don't have to lift heavy either, do they? No.
Sometimes like you could do well with just like a pair of 15-pound dumbbells, especially on your arms, because for a woman doesn't have to do as heavy a weight. We just have to do more volume versus a man. A man can go heavier and do way less volume because a man's body is not going to recover as faster as the females. Females, we recover very fast. So we can work out the same muscle group more often and do a higher volume. So like higher reps, like 15 to 20 reps, you're good to go.
That's not fair now that we recover faster than we do. That's just not fair, Elizabeth.
Well, the caveat is we got to work harder.
Oh my goodness. Hey, real quick before we get off here, what does Elizabeth like to do for fun when you're not working?
That's actually a good question because like the gym is my fun, which is why I'm there 5 days a week. And even on, Saturday and Sunday, my days off, I'll go in and just, if somebody needs help, I'm there. But I've got 4 boys. So when I'm not at the gym or working, I'm with my boys.
Are all you boys still at home?
They are. I've got 21, 16, 9, and 6. And my 21-year-old just got out of the Navy.
Oh, wow. Well, tell him thank him for his service. Appreciate that. Yeah, that's wonderful to know. Well, before we jump off, I always like to ask this question of everybody that is on with me. If there was one thing that you wish our listeners knew about Elizabeth Burgess at Our House Studios, but they probably wouldn't know unless you share it with them, and you'd like to just shout it loud and proud here today, what would it be?
It would be that I'm actually very introverted and shy, but when it comes to somebody wanting to get in shape and feel better about themselves, I will bend over backwards helping you to do it. Just come to our gym.
Well, that's great. I tell you, I couldn't tell you were shy here today. I mean, but we're
Right?
talking about something you love, right? It's your passion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Talk about the
that
gym.
does make
I will
a
not
difference.
shut up.
Elizabeth, why don't you share with us how people can find out more about Our House Studios and find out more about yourself, whether online or offline?
So we are Our House Studios. We are on Facebook and Instagram under Our House Studios. I am also on Instagram and Facebook, Elizabeth Tinney, Tinney. Our gym is located at Gateway Business Mall, which is next to Costco in Ringgold, Georgia, 4009 Cloud Springs Road. And we are there 6 days a week. Sorry, 7.
7 days a week. All right. And I guess they can find the phone number and the address. If they need a specific address, they can find it all there.
Everything's on Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay. On Facebook. Yeah. So, well, Elizabeth, it has been fun having you here. I've been so interested. I love to hear your take on fitness and what you do for your clients and for the clients there at our House Studios. And I thank you for what you do for the Parkinson's patients. That's really special. And,
well, thank you for having me and rattle on and on.
No, it's been very interesting, and I appreciate you being here. And to all to the residents that are in the whole greater Chattanooga region, after hearing Elizabeth talk and about what she does for people, it's so inspiring because, if you follow Elizabeth's Instagram and see what she does for herself personally, and you understand that what she does for others is an example of what she's doing for herself, then you see how interesting she is and how much she can actually help you if you allow her to. And she mentioned some other people's name there at Our House Studios as well that do things. But, if you have someone that's in need of that help with the Parkinson's patient, just remember this is a gym you can go to. And they have help there. And not only for your family member, but for maybe the caregiver, whether it's you, the family member, or somebody that's supporting in a supporting role. There's help for you. And if you need that help personally, want to lose weight, build muscle, maintain, whatever, Elizabeth has the secret recipe. She will help you with your exercises and with the macros. So it has been wonderful getting to know more about her and Our House today. And before ending this episode, I'd like to thank you all, of course, the listeners for, just taking time out of your day and spending it with us here at the Good Neighbor Podcast. I always like to say this before I get off, that just remember to support locally owned and or operated businesses, whether from Cleveland to Dalton, from Jasper to Benton, somewhere in between. This Chattanooga region is a beautiful place full of beautiful people. And let's do all we can to support one another. My name's Scott Howell. I'm with the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com or call 423-380-1984.